Today's episode is sponsored by Dynasty Athletic Performance and NC Football Connections.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Season 365 podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all platforms to stay updated with the latest episodes, coaching insights, and football conversations. Again, we have a channel on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, or X. Thank you for listening and being a part of the All Season 365 community. Today, we have a special guest. We have Coach Sheldon, linebacker / director of player personnel, coach at the Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, congratulations on yet another historical season, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you for making time to talk a little bit about college personnel. Very insightful show. Again, there's a lot of high school students that wonder, hey, how do I get to college, yet alone to the Division II level, right? So today you'll have a chance to share your expertise. But before we get to that, give our insiders a quick snapshot of your career journey to this point.
So I was a student assistant at St. John Fisher College in Pittsford, New York. So about 10 minutes from where I grew up. And then from there, I ended up becoming the cornerbacks coach at Bemidji State University. It's a D2 up in northern Minnesota. And then trying to go through the timeline. Then from there, I was a assistant at the University of Northern Iowa. I was the assistant quarterbacks coach up there. Then I took a trip back to Bemidji State, and then I went from Bemidji State to William Jewell College in Kansas City as a special teams coordinator, recruiting coordinator, and wide receivers coach. Then I went to Lincoln University in Missouri, where I was 2 years ago now as the pass game coordinator and recruiting coordinator, special teams coordinator. And now I'm here at Johnson C. Smith as linebackers coach.
What I appreciate most about your journey is, one, you've been all across, but most importantly, you spent time on both sides of the ball. And I like to say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your expertise from the offensive side gives you insight to your defensive coaching abilities, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured that. Absolutely. Well, and you also served in, a number of different capacities, recruiting coordinator, which brings me to my first question. So what are the most important traits you look for when evaluating a high school recruit beyond their game film?
Really, a big thing that we talk about is, do they want it? Like, we want, self-starters, self-motivated guys who are willing to get after it, who are looking just to improve every day. I know, we all kind of look for those guys who are self-starters, but at the D2 level, when at times you may be lacking resources, it may not be like Division I and all of that. Like, who are the guys who are serious about gaining weight, losing weight, changing their body composition? Like, we can only be on them so much, but if you recruit a kid and he already has that in him, he's already about those things, that just makes the job so much easier.
Very good statement there. Very good, very important information. And again, for those who don't know, and Coach might not touch on a little bit, but I can. Johnson C. Smith, for many years, struggled not only in North Carolina but on a Division II level. Most recently, they've been they've been aligned, or the crown of the CIAA championship is theirs, but it didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of ups and downs, round and round, but Coach and his staff has finally turned the page. So when it comes to building a program, Coach Flowers and his staff really understands that. So make sure you're paying attention. So my next question, Coach, how has the recruiting landscape at the Division II level changed when the transfer portal and NIL era has adjusted some things?
Hold up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
I can hear you.
All right, so Coach, job well done. Again, Coach Flowers, you and all you guys, job well done of assembling, a strong team. Again, you guys started from the ground zero, and now you're here. But we all know that the transfer portal and the NIL era has shifted things. So how has the recruiting landscape at the Division II level changed with the transfer portal and the NIL era? How has it changed?
So from a NIL standpoint, very, very few schools that I know of are able to just dole out NIL like that. But it does change how we or who we look after when it's some of those higher end guys. Because the reality of it is like a high level D2 player is a FCS football player. Like there's
Correct.
no way around that. Like that's why when you see, guys, all conference guys like hit the portal, like the first thing they get is a FCS or a group of five offer. But for us, our focus is still high school guys. Like just this past recruiting class, we still took 38 high school guys in comparison to 12 transfers because you still got to have guys who plan to be with you for a long haul, who you can build a culture with. And then you bring in the transfers as free agents or supplements to things that you need immediately. But you still got to build the roster.
Mm,
Like there's no way you can survive off transfers because you're installing a new culture
yeah.
to those guys every time you get a new group of them.
Mm,
And I just
mm.
don't, it's just not feasible to do that with 60 guys over and over and over, turning over half the team. So we still focus on high school guys.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like basing it off a percentage, and the top 10% is your studs, and those are usually your transfers and your Power Five, bounce backs, etc. The 80% is the high school players that you develop, and the bottom 10% are the projects that you're trying to get to the 80%. So yeah, that equation is very, very relevant. But what role does a director of player personnel play in building and managing a roster throughout the year?
Um, it's funny because we're right here in July. So at times it's a fancy way to say recruiting coordinator.
Uh-huh.
But really my thing is making sure from a recruiting standpoint that we're able to get a database of guys we need to look at from all
Nice.
the states that we recruit, whether that's North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, Tennessee, and
Mm,
making sure that us as a staff that we're keeping up on evaluating these guys
mm,
and having a system in place to get these guys looked at by the position coach, the coordinator, and the head coach, so we can go ahead
nice.
and get some of these guys offered out early if need be. And then really from there, it's kind of keeping us organized and on track of what that looks like throughout the year.
Mm,
Like the summer
mm,
portion is heavy recruiting season for us. It's heavy camp, and
mm,
then as we get into the season, we should have who we really like or who we have our eyes on really dialed in by that point. And then as
nice.
we get into the winter postseason, that's when we're looking at official visits and things like that. When you trim a list of 6,000 possible student athletes
Yeah, that's a lot,
down,
man.
yeah, down to about 100 or so.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot, man. And it sounds to me like there's a lot of, adjusting on the fly, like updating the list, like a
Yeah,
living document. That's what it sounds like to me. So,
all the time.
wow, man. Wow. So what are some of the biggest mistakes high school players and coaches make during the recruiting process, in your opinion?
I would say not having, if the high school coach is involved, not having a clear line of communication
Yeah.
between himself, the player, and the college coach. Like if we're all on three different pages
Yeah.
of what we want, what our expectations is, like no one's happy at the end of the day. So I
Yeah.
think that's always a big thing.
Mm,
And I would kind of follow that up with, at times, and like some players complain about this, like not pushing their student athletes or not even really understanding the process on how it goes on our end as well.
nice.
Like
Nice.
because when I was coming up, so I graduated high school like 2013. Like
Mhm.
our high school coach was big on making sure we went out to camps, seven on
Yeah.
sevens. He took us to those things. He
Mhm.
got us in front of those people
Mhm.
because he had just left from coaching college ball, so he kind of
So
understood
you
that.
understand, yeah.
Yeah, so he kind of understood that in order to get these guys seen, like it's not word of mouth. I got to get them in front of the people who are going to make these decisions, so someone can
Yeah.
fall in love with them. Whether
Yeah.
what and like so, I'm from New York, so like I was thinking I was going to Syracuse,
Yeah.
but if
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but if the coaches that St. John Fisher fall in love with me, that's a win as well. So, I think that's a big thing too, is, getting those guys out and pushing them to go do those things where they can get seen, to have somebody fall in love with them. Because it just takes one.
Yeah. It just takes one, and that's a very valid point. Loading up the bus, man, and getting those guys to camp, but most importantly, making sure that that communication is very, very thorough, because we all know, coaches change jobs, high school and college, and sometimes there's just a breakdown in communication. So as long as that communication is ongoing, and like you said, it only takes one to fall in love with you, then everything will take care of itself. So when it comes to evaluating prospects, and again, there's multiple variables that go into it. But when evaluating prospects, how do you balance athletic ability, character, academics, and, like in your situation, cultural fit?
I think you got to fall towards athletic first, because that's going to
Mhm.
keep us watching the highlight tape.
Right.
And then once we feel as if you're a good enough athlete, then we'll start to do the research on how you are as a person, what are the
Okay.
grades like, so we can move forward. But the athletic thing will always jump off first. That's always going to be the very first piece of it. Because if you're competing with Newberry, Virginia Union, or even talking
Yeah.
nationally,
Oh yeah.
Fair State, you're gonna need
Oh
some
yeah.
cats who can run and go do some
Yes.
things. But we
Yes.
also need you to be a high character guy, because we don't want to have a bunch of turnover. And at the
Mhm.
same time, gotta be a good student, because we don't need a bunch of guys who are rolling so close to being ineligible. No one, like, at this level, no one wants to chase you. No one
Yeah.
wants to chase you.
Mm. Mm. Go to class, man. And I'll say, like, on our level, the high school level, we really try our best to make sure that our kids are doing what they need to do. So if they do want to go to the next level, let's say that you guys recruit, you guys are recruiting two of our players, right? The
Mhm.
expectations, like, hey, listen, when you go to that campus, those coaches shouldn't have to wake you up in the morning to make sure you're in
Mhm.
class, right? So accountability, man, that's so important, and I'm actually glad that you hit on that as well. So what advice would you give high school coaches to help their players gain more exposure to Division II programs? Again, everybody wants to go Power Five, everybody want to go to Alabama, or Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, etc. But Division II is a very good program, as very good level as well. There's a lot of dogs everywhere, man, in a good way. So,
Oh
what
yeah.
advice would you give high school coaches to help their players gain more exposure to the Division II programs?
Two things. I would say, um, go to the camps that are showing your guys interest, like real interest, not just throwing out a flyer just because. And then build a relationship with those coaches, because if you build a relationship with those coaches, you always have that guy's ear no matter where he's at.
Always. Hmm.
Always. And you can always funnel players to him, because he'll always look at them. That way, year in and year out, like, you're always having your guys just an opportunity to get seen. I think that's the biggest thing, is getting them to camps that really want them there. And then two, building a relationship with the college coach. That way you can have their ear and start to push some of those guys. That way they can see him. Cause, like, that's the thing. Like, I want to say the actual number was that we watched 6,394 players between all the states that touch North Carolina.
Man, that's a lot of players.
But if your high school coach sends you to me, I'm more apt to watch that right now,
Yeah.
as opposed to me sitting there trying to chip away at 1,200 linebackers between 7 states.
Mm. I like that, and relationships is everything, definitely. And like I messaged to you before, Coach Bowser, and again, I know he was with you guys, but I know him for many years, and every place he went to, from the St. All to where you guys are now to where he's at now, we always kept in contact. So like you
Mhm.
said, relationships is everything, and it really goes a long way. Really goes a long way. So the final question for you, Coach, man. So just in a nutshell. In your opinion, what does a successful recruiting operation look like behind the scenes, and how do coaches, recruiting coordinators, and player personnel staff work together to make it all happen?
I think you got to have a system in place to where you can identify players. I think that's always the first thing. A big thing for me is always starting off on the right foot, and then if you got to figure it out along the way, at least the starting point was correct.
Nice.
So it's having a database of names of players, and then really from there having a way or a system in place to where the coaches who need to see them get to see them. I
Like,
think that's huge. Like some college programs go strictly position coaches. Some college programs go area coaches and then position coaches, and then kind of funnel it to the coordinators. I think whichever role you take with that, I think that you do that and you kind of work through the kinks of that. Like I've done both. Like there's been places where we've done from the area coach, like when I was recruiting Chicago, like I would send all the Chicago kids, receivers that I like, to the receiver coach, then the receiver coach would watch them, then coordinator. And then I've been places where it's just the area coach gets every kid from that one state,
yeah,
sends them to the position coach, and the position coach will tell you who he likes.
yeah,
And then really from there, having a way to get the coordinators involved and have the final say. That way everybody's comfortable with who you're going to offer and who you're talking about. And then head coach always has final say, right?
yeah, always.
Because those are going to be his guys for 4 years. So always having 5 years now. Well,
Yeah,
having those guys, and then if having a point of transition where once you get in season, still keeping in contact with those guys. Because when you build relationships, it is a constant thing. It's the same thing when your guys are on campus. Like your guys on campus, like want to have a relationship, they want to speak with you, they want to talk with you.
yeah,
So it's really that same thing. And then having something or a plan in place for the season that takes you into the postseason when you're talking official visits, and then sealing those things up.
Nicely stated, Coach. Well, thank you for listening to the All Season 365 podcast. I'm Coach Simmons here with Coach Tucker, and we signing off.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dynasty Athletic Performance and NC Football Connections.